Hello, friends, and welcome to Virtual Strangers 15. It's 15, right?
It is.
Yeah, it is 15. So I don't know who of my staff did this show format, but whoever it is, I'm going to have to fire them because they put 14 on here instead of
Let's see
15.
if you're paying
Well,
attention.
yeah, it is. So, yeah, it is Virtual Strangers 15. I am your host, Wes. With me, as always, my good friends to the end, Alex and Roots. And we're here to talk about the week in VR news. Another slow week this week. And by slow week, I mean what we used to call a normal week. Up to this point, since the time we started doing this show, almost 4 months ago now, the news has been hard and heavy every week with so many game announcements. Some of our shows running on to 2 and 3 hours, and we're just now starting to calm back down and get back to what is actually normal. So even though it feels like a slow week, this is actually a pretty normal week in VR news. We've gotten what I think is going to be most of the game announcements for 2019 at this point, and now we're going to start getting those games. Instead of announcements, we're going to get actual games. And that's how we're going to start our show this week because yesterday, I guess 2 days ago at the time that this publishes, Rogan, The Thief in the Castle released to a storm of negative, I'll call them mixed because it's not all negative, but mostly negative reviews. We all got a little bit of time in this game, or at least me and Roots did. I don't think Alex had the chance to play as much as we have. But we've got some early impressions, and let me reiterate, these are just early impressions of a day one playthrough. More to come on this later as we get more time in it. But I'll start with Alex. You tried to play this one, right?
Yeah, it's got some issues. Mainly blur. It's very blurry. Which I know you guys aren't having this problem. So I've basically come to the conclusion, and I've actually had it confirmed from a few people in the Steam forums that it works fine on the Oculus with the super sampling, like Oculus Tool Tray super sampling. But if you run it through Steam VR, because I'm trying to run it on the Index, it doesn't recognize the super sampling, so it's really blurry. The devs have, to be fair, released an update today, which apparently helps with the blur, but I haven't had a chance to try it out, so I can't confirm if that fixes it or not. But yeah, the devs over the last 2 days have put two updates out, and I'm pretty confident that they're going to fix it. So I'm not going to hold it against them too much. But right now, I just don't want to play any of it. Obviously, while it's in that state. So, but what I saw was it looked really polished, and the graphics past the Vaseline that's smeared all over my face looks nice. It just needs the super sampling putting into the game engine so that you can do it within the game engine, and that'll sort it out. So, but you two have played it, so you can talk about it.
Yeah. I tried it out, and like you're saying there, I didn't have any issues with it. It probably is something that's uh, uh, confined to people who were on an Index or a Vive. Yeah, pretty clear game for me. Of course, there was some day one jank, but that's to be expected from even the biggest AAA games. When it's a VR game, it has some day one jank. It normally takes a couple of days for them to get the minor issues um, ironed out. I thought graphically it looked very good. You can tell some time went into the way this game looks. Um, the sound design, not the best, but uh, I will say this: it was kind of like the voice acting was like a B movie. It was kind of one of those almost so bad that it's good type things that you hear people talking, it's just kind of comical because it's so cheesy and corny. Uh, but the story a bit convoluted. You're in a castle. You have a walkie-talkie. Uh, you have knights that are supposed to be guards in this castle, but they talk on the walkie-talkie like beat cops. You know the she's armed and dangerous. Stuff like that. Repeat, armed and dangerous. So again, very funny. My biggest concern, and again, I've got maybe an hour into this game. It's too early to judge, but my biggest concern with this game is that it seems to be a fairly simplistic gameplay concept, and they kind of hold your hand through it. They kind of point everything out to you. If you get off the path, they're constantly beating you over the head with clues to get you back on the path, and it seems like it's a bit of a collectathon stretched over top of a walking simulator. But I could be wrong. I don't want to judge too early. So again, we're going to put some more time into this and come back to it later. Roots, what did you think about Rogan?
I thought it was pretty good. You know, it was weird for me. Like I was telling you guys a little bit ago, it was surreal. I went into it. I had my Oculus tool tray set to 1.5 like I always do, and I thought, wow, this looks really good. And you know, we just played a lot of Spy Who Shrunk Me, you know, which is another stealth game, and it was okay, you know, Spy Who Shrunk Me, but I started to play this, and I liked this a lot better. I liked the scale of the soldiers in hiding. You know, I made it like through 4 or 5 stages. I think I probably put about an hour and a half to 2 hours into it. And it's starting to get a little bit more difficult, and there's more soldiers roaming around, and I even went. This is how stupid and high I was. I even walked up to one. I thought there was like a suit of armor, and I was like, "Oh, cool! There's a suit of armor standing there." And no, it was a guard. And he got me. But no, what was surreal about it is I came out of the game and I went and I looked, and like everybody was like complaining about it and saying it looked like crap. It was blurry, and it didn't make sense. And that's why I was kind of glad that we were doing it different ways. And Alex, even unfortunately for him, the one that got the game, he's the one that can't check it out yet. But we were able to ascertain exactly what happened, that it was the Steam VR super sampling not working. But I think for what it is, stealth game, and following the story, which I'm starting to really get into, I like it. I think it's very, very graphically done. It's done very well. I agree with you on that, Wes. And the acting, like you said, you overhear guards. There's like a coup going on. You know, this chick is trying to, the main girl you're helping was in charge, and now they're saying she's betraying, and she's got all the guards going against her, and so you're trying to help her, and it's gotten me to the point where I want to finish the game. So hopefully people will give this a chance. The biggest thing that this game has going against it, it's not a $40 game. It's not even close to a $40 game. I'd say a $20 game with like maybe a $10 on sale. That I believe is what people are freaking out about. Like they expected for $40. I expect huge, not only polish and graphics and everything else. I want gameplay. And as good as this stealth game is, it's not a Shadow Legends. You know, there's very limited gameplay. Like you said, you're walking around and it's almost a simulation that you're trying to find your way through to wherever you're going and make it through the stage, and not be seen. There's not too much to it. But I definitely think it's worth checking out, but not for $40.
Yeah, I agree. I think that when that $40 price tag was announced, there's a certain level of expectations that come with that. And I agree. I think that that a lot of people were expecting more based on that. I will say this, that whenever you see such a significant pre-order discount, that generally tends to be a red flag for me. You know, it's like they're trying to grab the money early, but it doesn't work on a system like Steam. You can get your refund, you know. But yeah, there's a lot more negative I could say about this. I'm going to reserve judgment, give the devs a couple of days to improve upon it, go back in, get some more time in it, and we will come back to this game maybe next week, maybe the week after, and do a more detailed review discussion on it.
One last thing, let's address the elephant in the room. Look at that fucking hood, man. Like that's why I chose this video, because it It is so in your face. Like Alex, you were saying you even were like blown away. You like measured it how it would be in real life.
Yeah. I actually put my hands during in the game to see how big it would be, and it's literally like out here. So it's like having a if you can see, it's literally like having a hood that comes out here in real life. It's ridiculous. But luckily they've already patched that, so you can turn that off now. So that's one thing fixed. Yeah, I mean, what I will say is, I think the negativity. I mean, 'cause this has had a lot. I mean, it's like virtually all negative people talking about it, and a lot of, if you look at a lot of the criticism, obviously there's the blurry graphics, which is a fair criticism, and a lot of people saying that it's boring when they've only played like 20 minutes. So it's kind of, I don't think it deserves quite as much negativity. I think that people need to just chill out a little bit, give it a little bit of time, give the developers time to fix these issues. I understand that it's an expensive game, and I think that goes against it, to be honest with you. I think the price, like Wes said, people expect more from that price. It's kind of almost AAA level, game at that sort of price. If people expect it to be perfect, people expect a 5, 6, 7, 8 hour game with probably some meaty gameplay, and when you've basically got a kind of a story-driven walking simulator with some mild interactivity, that probably isn't what people were expecting. Because I know obviously it's a lot of people were expecting the flat game in VR where you can climb and hide and you can't more combat, and this is definitely not that. So I mean, I'm still interested in it. I still want to check it out. I love story-driven, visually impressive games anyway. So as long as the story is interesting and as long as the graphics keep evolving and I keep going to new areas and seeing new things, I think I'll enjoy it. I just don't think it's probably going to be worth, even if it is good. It's only apparently about 3 hours long, so I don't think anyone can really defend that price and think that's worth it. It should have been the pre-order price from word go, and then people can maybe pick it up a little bit cheaper on a sale. But we'll play more of it, and we'll probably get a review next week and give a proper opinion once we've actually finished the game. So
yeah. The hood I found to be a little bit annoying at first, because I always, and I've said it before on this program, I always get annoyed when the developers don't give the player options. Don't force comfort settings on me. Don't force locomotion styles on me. So I'm glad to hear that they're giving the option now to remove it. Even though I did get used to it after being in it and playing for a little while, I really didn't think about it much toward the end of my session. So I do wonder this: do you think people who play on Pimax get like even more hood in their picture? Because you see a lot of it even with the narrow field of view. I imagine with the wide field of view, it must be massive.
That's a good question.
Thing is, I think it would be cool. Like if you did have a Pimax and you was more like in your peripheral vision, I think it would be a cool thing to have that kind of hood where it's kind of blocking some of you and you feel like you're wearing a hood. But because we've got obviously we're already at restricted field of view already, to then have such a massive amount of, I mean, you're literally looking through kind of like this sort of area, and obviously we don't want that. But I think if it was just on the fringes, maybe, I think it would have been quite cool. I quite like sometimes when they have the helmet and you can see like the bottom of the helmet and you can see like it sticking out and stuff. I quite think, as long as it's not restricting my horizontal, I find that sort of stuff's quite cool, because it works well with the 3D depth. You can see the depth of the helmet and stuff. But this is just too excessive. So,
well, luckily it's
now it's
an option now. Yeah, definitely looking forward to getting back in and checking this one out. The stealth gameplay I didn't think was bad at all. The thief gameplay, it felt a bit contrived to me. It just seemed like they added it in to give the player something else to do. But the stealth gameplay was very much like an old school stealth game where you have this infinite number of guards coming on a evenly timed interval, going down the same path. It was kind of like an old school flat stealth game. But yeah, definitely looking forward to checking it out a little bit more and seeing where it goes from here. You guys have anything else you want to say about Rogan?
No.
All right, moving on. Just a reminder that Defector, we've got another new game coming next week. Defector is going to be released exclusively on Oculus platforms. Of course, this is a cinematic spy thriller, something in the vein of Blood and Truth, apparently. Obviously, we haven't played it, so we don't know. But it's going to release next week on the 11th for $20. Alex, I know you haven't had your index long. Have you tried any other Oculus exclusives through Revive on your index?
No, I've actually installed the client because I want to try that tomorrow. So I'm going to play about with it because I want to figure it all out and get ready for the Defector because I would prefer to play it on the index, obviously. But I've got the old Rift if I need to go back to that. But yeah, I'm going to play about with it and see how I get on. I'm looking forward to this. I missed out on Blood and Truth, obviously, so this is my. I think it's going to be pretty cool. And price, we all know that it's priced really well. So no one's going to complain about the price of this one, I don't think.
Well, somebody already has when they announced the $20 price.
It's too cheap.
People were saying the opposite. Yeah.
People were starting to get worried, thinking that it wasn't going to be good enough or long enough. But so it's kind of a you can't win situation for the developers.
Yeah.
But after what we were just saying with the expectations and the $40 price tag from Rogan, you can kind of understand why maybe the Defector people want to give it a lower price tag and maybe manage expectations so that when it comes out, people are pleasantly surprised that it's better than they thought rather than the other way around. But yeah, I think it looks really good. It looks very similar to Blood and Truth. Obviously, I don't think it's going to be node-based like Blood and Truth, but it seems like it's very much in the same spirit, same type of game. Very cinematic, story-driven spy game. In a related bit of news, and we don't have much news, but I noticed on Twitter this week that Sony London Studio, the studio behind Blood and Truth, they have already begun work on their next project, and they're hiring help. So, assuming that it's going to take them a while, like their other projects have taken a while in development, we can assume that this is going to be something for PlayStation 5 that they're starting to work on, possibly for PSVR 2, but we don't know. It could be for PS5 and PSVR 1. But after this great, like I said last week, Blood and Truth is my game of the year so far. It's exciting to see that they're already getting to work on their next project. Roots, you have anything you want to add on Defector or the Blood and Truth news I just shared?
Actually, I agree with you 100%. As far as the price, I think it's the one thing that the devs can control as far as spin on the way they can make their game release. And if you can have it come out with an even more positive, we just saw the opposite with Rogan. It's like, fuck, man, it's too expensive. If you can make people feel like it's an even better deal, and it's also, let's not forget, it's also Oculus, and they're subsidizing it so they can release it for whatever price they want. So it's the one company that when I hear $20, I don't freak out, because I know that doesn't mean it's going to be anything tied to what the game is going to be. And to me, it looks like it'll almost be better than Blood and Truth. Now, this isn't a year old, and I don't think these people look as good as Blood and Truth, and maybe they'll look better, but just looks like the gameplay seems to be more varied. Blood and Truth seems to be more on a rail than this. And of course, this is me talking outside my ass because I haven't tried it, but that's what it appears from what I'm looking at here. So I'm excited to see. And for $20, I mean, I don't see why anybody would not try this. So,
yeah. And with the $20 price tag, I think it's important to note that this game has been in development for quite some time. And as we were talking about, I think it was last week, the expectations of the VR enthusiast realm are changing. A year ago, $20 was an expensive game, and this game was very much in the thick of being developed in. So they may have planned even since back then to release this for $20. Now $20 is looked at as a little bit cheap, and now I think $30 is that sweet spot that $20 was a year ago. So yeah, awesome looking game for a great price, and more on this one next week.
Yeah, not long till we get to try it out ourselves, and obviously next week we'll be able to talk about actually playing it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, looking forward to it. We've been waiting on this one for a very long time, and it looks cool. Looks like there's branching paths based on the narrative. It just looks awesome. I love story-based games, and this one looks really good. So.
Yep.
All right, moving on. Firewall Zero Hour, Operation Nightfall, a game that has been in the news a lot in recent weeks. We haven't talked about it every week on this show, basically because I don't like to kick a game while it's down. But this game's been much maligned since the announcement of Operation Nightfall. Since we reported on it on our show, the DLC update was implemented, and it caused all sorts of bugs and issues with the game. And apparently now, after a series of ongoing updates that have been taking place over the last few weeks, apparently they have finally gotten on top of these issues, and the game is once again back to its old awesome playable self. That said, they announced the mid-season update this week, which includes a new map entitled FOB. The map takes place in Afghanistan, and it's not just a basic map like the older ones. This map takes place during a sandstorm, so you have challenged visibility and a new aspect to gameplay that we haven't seen in this game before. It also introduces a new character who can self-revive, which I think is very interesting, the concept of being able to revive yourself. I'm curious to know, is this character just new to the free audience, or did the audience who paid to get behind the paywall, have they had access to this character before? Because, man, wouldn't that suck to be playing against one of these guys who threw down the money, and they can just, you kill them and they can just get right back up. Anyway, as I was saying, the combination of the jank and the new paywall system drove away a lot of players. So in order to try to lure some of us back, not only are they releasing this mid-season update with these awesome new additions, but apparently the price has permanently dropped down to $20, which I think is a very fair price for what I believe is a very good game. Roots, how much Firewall have you played, and do these new additions maybe entice you to get back into it?
I haven't played too much. I mean, I got my aim controller with this game, and I didn't sell it like most people, as I wanted to try it out, and so I tried it a little bit. My biggest thing is, like, have they fixed the menus, like the waiting areas? I mean, am I going to wait and get knocked out of game? Like, isn't it all fucked up, right? Trying to wait for a game and it takes forever, and then is that this game or is that the other one?
No, you're right. That was this game, and some of those issues have been corrected. The issues where people getting dropped and kicked back into the lobby in the middle of a game, losing your squad members instead of staying together with your friends, those issues have been resolved. Now, the wait times in the lobby, I'm not sure. I would have to go in and check it out, and it's been a while since I played this game. I was going to check it out after the last update, but hearing what everybody was saying, I mean, hardcore Firewall players were swearing this game off, like, I'll never go back in that again. It's so messed up. So I didn't go into it. Yeah. I'm sure they will too, right?
But I would check it
But
out. I would check it out now if they fix those things because that was my thing. Is like I don't want to sit in a lobby and wait for a game for 15 minutes or however long it takes and get in it and then start going through and then drop and then be back in the lobby. That my time is worth more than that. You know what I mean? So that's probably what's been keeping me from checking it out the most. So I think I would go back into it and check it out. Just to see. So.
Yeah, I think the most of the issues with that particular aspect of this game comes from someone trying to go in the game by themselves and wait for 7 other players to join. And, you never know when one of those guys are going to drop out and mess everything up. I think if you go into this game with friends, which a lot of the reviewers and YouTubers that cover this game, that's how they always play. They take community members and friends into the game with them, and they never have to wait. So I think that's pretty much the key here. It's a pretty rough experience if you go in by yourself, but if you have a friend or two with you, I think it improves the experience a whole lot.
Okay.
So maybe we can hook up and go into this one together because it is a very good game.
Yeah, I'm always looking for an excuse to use my aim controller. So
yeah, me too. And that said, if anyone's watching this, has the aim controller, has Firewall, and wants to hook up with Roots and I to get in for a few sessions, try it out, try the new update, leave a comment down below or hit us up on Discord, and we can make it happen. Yeah. Anyway, another tidbit that I mentioned that Firewall apparently has dropped down to $20 as a permanent price drop. I thought that it had went on sale, and I went in to check to verify that it was on sale, and it didn't appear off sale. The price was just lower. When it's on sale, it'll tell you the % off, and it'll say sale. This wasn't that. It just was $20, so I assume that it's a permanent price drop. But interestingly, there was a couple other games that had exactly the same thing. Price dropped to $20, but no mention of a sale. And those games are Space Junkies, which was also a $40 game, if I'm not mistaken, now $20, and Astrobot Rescue Mission, which was a game we have recently reviewed, one of the best VR games of all time, certainly the best VR platformer that I've ever played, also $20, a must-have game. If any of you out there have a PSVR and don't have Astrobot, it's just $20 now. You got to get this game. It's awesome.
Yeah, unless you don't like Mario in VR. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's really close to it's the closest we have to Mario in VR other than actual Mario in VR. Yeah. But all right, just a couple of mentions while we're on PSVR. We had a couple of games released last week. I'm just going to mention them, not going to really talk about them. These are games we've talked about before on this channel at some point. I just wanted to report that Sirento VR was released in the EU territories last week. It will be released this coming week in North America. So you PSVR players out there that have been waiting on this one, I know for a long time, it is a pretty fun game. Take a look at the PlayStation Store, I think this Tuesday, and you should be able to access Sirento VR. Also, a game that I know we've all played, Scraper, First Strike, a very good game on PC VR. Apparently getting some pretty good reviews from the PlayStation VR community. That game was also released this past Tuesday. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but for $20, I think it's a very good game, and I definitely recommend it to those PSVR players out there.
I like it. It's fun. If you haven't tried it, especially for $20, I think I paid $40 when it first came out. Whatever it was at launch, and it's the coolest pod fighting game I don't know. It's cool. So
yeah, I think it's really high production value, almost AAA level production value. Not the easiest game in the world either. It's not one of these games that holds your hands and helps you through. It's pretty difficult as you go through it. So, Alex, did you try Scraper? What did you think about it?
Yeah, I've tried it. I wasn't a massive fan, if I'm honest, but I played about 30 minutes and I never went back in it. So maybe it's a game that you need to put more time into and get to know. But I didn't find it really particularly that fun. It was just kind of repetitive for me, but I didn't put enough time into it. So that's why I wasn't going to say anything, but because you asked me. But what I will say is I've just checked on the UK PS4 store. Astrobot's still £34.99.
Oh,
So I don't know. I don't know whether that's just a US thing or what, but it's not been reduced over.
Yeah, I don't think. I was thinking about that. It's like, you know, you look at Mario, and I only use that as an example because I kind of put Astrobot in that tier. It never goes on sale. You know, it's the one type of game that from Nintendo you never see it on sale. So I would be surprised if Astrobot permanently, or you know, not on sale but permanently dropped. I'd be surprised if they dropped from 40 permanently, but I guess that'd be nice. We'll see.
Maybe it was just a temporary thing. I haven't checked it today, so maybe I'm incorrect about that. That was just an assumption. I will say this for you PSVR players out there that want Astrobot. If it isn't on sale on the store anymore for $20, you can get used copies of this from GameStop, and it does go on sale there every now and then. Also, the way I bought it was I rented it from GameFly, and as I mentioned before, $12 a month, you get to rent 2 games at a time, which is a great deal. But if you play a game and you want to keep it, they give you a discounted price, and you can buy the game directly from GameFly. That's how I bought my copy of it. And after you subscribe for 3 months, they give you a percentage discount off of the already discounted price, and they start giving you $5 vouchers on top of that every 3 months. So they give you $5, and they give you 10% off an already discounted price for a used game. So it's a good way to buy these physical copies, generally at a pretty heavy discount from what you can get in a brick and mortar store. So I think I bought Astrobot for like $22 or $23 right when it first released.
That's such a
good deal.
Such a damn smart way for GameFly to do it, right? Because you think, you know, what's the one thing you don't want is old, as you're using these games up, you don't want those ones around. You sell them and get newer ones. I don't know. It's just a really good way to pretty much benefit everybody, it seems like.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. When you buy it, they ship you the case with the original, you know, whatever kind of books or anything comes with it. And most of the time at a very heavy discount. For example, my favorite game ever, Resident Evil 7. And yes, Justin, I know I need to finish it. My favorite game ever, Resident Evil 7, I got from GameFly. And it was not long after it released. I think I paid $15 for it, $16, something like that. And again, this was within 6 months of it releasing, and this is a AAA flat game, so it was an expensive game, $40 or $50 at the time. I got it for less than half price by stacking a sale price, 10% discount, and a $5 coupon. So just for future reference, Ace Combat 7 on the way to me right now. I'm going to try it out when it gets here, and maybe we'll talk about that on a future episode of Virtual Strangers too. Anyway, GameFly is an awesome deal. For any of you that are looking for Astrobot or any other of these great AAA games on PlayStation VR, it's a very good option for someone like myself who's on a budget. Anyway, they should give me a free subscription, right? As much as I plug GameFly on here, I think that they should sponsor me and at least let me have my service for free. Anyway, moving on. A little bit more PSVR news. Iron Man VR, which was announced a couple months ago as coming to the PlayStation VR. They announced this game was coming, and we didn't get much news of it. We got a trailer that didn't have much gameplay in it. The gameplay that was in the trailer did not look very good. to be quite blunt about it. So a lot of people wrote it off, but in pretty quick fashion, some GIFs surfaced, or GIFs, however it's pronounced, surfaced showing some more gameplay, and it actually looked pretty good. So people from that point took a kind of a wait and see approach to it. And since then, nothing. This game has fell off the radar. We haven't heard anything else until now. Let's see, this year's Comic-Con's coming up here in a couple of weeks. San Diego Comic-Con. It's a gigantic event where movies, television, comics, games all converge to show what's coming. And this year, the Marvel panel is going to have a games section. So there's going to be a Marvel games panel hosted by your friend and mine, Greg Miller, who is a friend to the VR community, obviously, from Kind of Funny Games. And apparently, we're going to get quite a bit more of a look at Iron Man VR. Not only is there going to be a hosted Let's Play, but people who are there attending are going to be able to get to play the game. And let's see here, it says that there are going to be unannounced special surprises and panel exclusives. Of course, this is an exclusive PSVR game developed by Camouflage, the developer of Republic, which is a game that I don't know much about. But Alex, weren't you telling me about this game last week, Republic?
Yeah, it's coming to Quest. It's already on the go. It's one that I actually want to see come to the PC VR. It's already a flat game, but I'd like to see the PC VR version, with the better graphics made for the VR, because it's like a third-person stealth. It's supposed to be really good. So these developers are supposed to be pretty decent. And all the hands-on we've heard from Iron Man has been positive. So obviously I won't be able to play it, but I'm still interested in seeing how it turns out.
Yeah. That's the one thing. I haven't played Republic myself, but it does get pretty good reviews. It does seem to be liked amongst those who have played it. So it's a good thing to note that these developers do have experience in VR, and I don't think Sony would commission someone to handle an expensive, popular license like this if they weren't talented enough to handle the job. Roots, last week we talked about another Marvel game that isn't the best game in the world. So we're still waiting on that great superhero game to come to VR. Do you think that Iron Man VR might be that game that we've been waiting on?
Well, I think it could be. I mean, from the gameplay or the gifts that, like you said, and people's reactions to their hands-on, seems like it's pretty good. And even the footage in this, even though it's not the actual gameplay for some of it, it cuts to play parts that is, and you're using your hands and I just think it looks like they're on the right track. So I'm gonna be optimistic and really I'm looking forward to it. And Alex, who knows how long this will take? You may get to try this, like things happen. All of a sudden you might have a PlayStation VR and be like, what the fuck happened? So it'll be, you never know. So
I think that we all tried the Spider-Man experience last week, and I think it goes to prove something that I kind of alluded to last week during the Marvel talk, that with these superhero games, sometimes less is more. I felt when I was in Powers United that it was a little bit of an overkill there. They didn't have to put every superhero in it and have these teams made up of unrelated characters in the comics. So we tried the Spider-Man thing last week, and it was just Spider-Man, and it was great. And I think that we could see the same thing here with Iron Man VR, something that doesn't cross the boundaries of other stories. Maybe we would get some Avengers stuff in it, which would be normal, but we're not going to see things that don't fit in this game. And I think that could be a positive. And I'm looking forward to Comic-Con and seeing what people say about this game, and hopefully getting some substantial footage of it as well.
That really bothered you, huh? The people or the different characters getting mixed in there. Because I grew up watching Justice League and stuff, and so the idea of like a scenario where it's so fucked up that like all the certain superheroes join together, I think is kind of cool. I mean, it doesn't. I guess I can kind of see where you were saying. I would rather have a story-driven game that's like makes a little bit more sense, even if it. On Marvel Powers United, if I'm playing by myself, pick the 3 people that would make sense with me, unless I choose not to, maybe, or something. But I don't know. I just think that's interesting.
It wasn't just that fact that bothered me. That was a symptom of what I felt was a larger problem with the game, is that it didn't fit into your basic story that you would find in a comic or a movie. It wasn't just the mix and match characters. There was a lot more going on there with the story of the game, the way that the actual gameplay. That was just an example of the larger problem. I have no issue with crossovers. Like it makes sense where if you're on a team and we have a character or 2 crossover, those are some of the better comics. Maybe I'm a bit of a hardcore old school comic guy, but I did collect for many years, so maybe it's just me being a little bit picky. Crossovers were some of the better issues, but it never was like every good guy versus every villain.
Mm-hmm.
Let's all team up and collect some batteries and deploy some generators, shield generator. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
We've shit on that one enough. I'm going to stop because I could shit on it all day. And it really isn't a bad game. I would call it a decent game. Not a great game, not really even a good game, but a decent game. Anyway, enough Marvel. Let's move on here. We got a little bit of news about Gran Turismo. As any of you PSVR gamers might recall, when GT Sport was in development, they promised us full VR support for GT Sport. So they said the whole game was going to be in VR, but as we all know, that's not exactly what happened. When the game was released, there was a very limited VR mode to that game, meaning that you could do time trials in VR and you could do a 1v1 in VR, and that's it. Very lacking gameplay, and I haven't heard very many good reviews about it. People said what was there was kind of okay, but there needed to be a lot more. So there was an interview with the creator of Gran Turismo, who happens to also be like the president of the digital content. The man behind Gran Turismo did an interview with, I think, what was his own publication, if I'm not mistaken. And we got some tidbits about the next Gran Turismo game. First of all, he kind of alluded to that the reason they had to drop full support for the GT Sport was because of the original PlayStation 4 just wasn't powerful enough for them to do what they wanted to with that game. That said, they are developing the next generation, the next version of Gran Turismo. It is in development now. Assuming that it's coming for PlayStation 5, just like everything else that's in development right now. And this guy basically seems to be a big proponent, a big supporter of VR as a platform. He didn't come out and say that the next Gran Turismo game is going to fully support VR, but he alluded to it. And I think it's a safe assumption, and there we go with that dangerous word, assumption. I think it's pretty safe to assume that the next Gran Turismo is going to be on PlayStation 5. It's going to fully support VR. And, I personally haven't been in a whole lot of these racing games. I played Wipeout. Alex, I know that this is your realm, the VR racing game. Have you ever played Gran Turismo before?
Last one was like Gran Turismo 4 on the, what was that, PS3 maybe? Yeah, I think it was PS3.
Well,
I used to love the Gran Turismos, but then they went a bit arcadey for me. But then apparently they're pretty good now. So I don't know. I've not tried a recent one, but I think basically what's going to happen is next generation. Once we've got next generation consoles with the VR, I'd be surprised if we see any real racing game not have VR support, because it's one of the easier games to develop for, because you're not having any sort of locomotion or motion controls. You are just the camera. Uh, right now, obviously, a lot of developers aren't justifying it, and they can't really do it with the PS4's limitations anyway, not without doing lots and lots of work and optimization. So once we've got that power of the PS5, and obviously you've got Sony who are pushing VR really strongly, this is a flagship title for them. So I'd be very surprised if we don't get proper full VR support with the next game, and any racing game going forward, unless it's a really really arcadey game. But even Wipeout's an arcadey game, and that's got VR support. So any racing game, even arcade ones, will work in VR. So I can't wait for the day when we don't have to beg the developers to give us VR support, and they just come with it as standard, because I love racing games, and it's just there's racing games I want to. Like WRC8 comes out this year, and the developers have said straight up that they're not having VR support, and it's just every time a racing game comes out, straight away I can just imagine me playing it in VR, but I can't because it's not got VR support. And Grid, which is the new Codemasters games coming out, and that one's not going to get VR support. Codemasters are weird because they supported Dirt Rally, they didn't support Dirt 4. Now they're going to do Dirt Rally 2, but they haven't done any of the Formula 1 games. They're not going to do. So they've kind of like dipped the toes in. They would have been better off just not doing any, and then people wouldn't have probably expected it. But that's probably another story for another conversation. But yeah, I can't wait for the day when we don't have to beg developers to have it, and it's just part of the game. Every game has VR support. So
yeah, that's basically what this guy said. This president of and founder of Gran Turismo, he basically parroted everything you just said. He was talking about how great of a platform that VR is, and in particularly for racing games, it's kind of a match made in heaven. It's kind of like VR was made for racing sims, and so I don't think that this is one day that we're going to have to beg for it. I think that he's going to do it for the love of it. Like most developers who work in VR, they love it, and I think this guy is no exception. And I do believe that the next Gran Turismo is going to have full VR support. Roots, have you tried Gran Turismo? Are you a fan?
I have not actually. I'm kind of jealous of Alex in the sense that like I've never really tried a proper VR racing rig, and I know he's got like fucking straps that simulate G-force and like.
oh, I've got that. I set that up today.
He's got
Yeah.
all sorts. Go ahead.
I've got these little motors. My racing rig is so ghetto. It's unbelievable. It's basically like this portable fold-up deck chair with a steering wheel, and there's some pedals attached to it. And then I've got transducers, which are just literally, I've cut a hole in the fabric, and I've put these transducers on, and then duct taped over them. And I've got another transducer down the back, and I've got a homemade bracket for the gear lever. I've got a full harness which has got these motors on the back, so that when you brake, the motors twist and pull the harness tight on your body to simulate G-forces. I've just finished developing these little motors on either side. I just did some tests today, and as you go around the corner, they pull on your body, so they simulate G-forces as you're going around the body. I mean, it's as close as I can get to a motion simulator, but it's all portable. I can just fold it up and put it to one side. Yeah, I've spent too much money and too much time on this thing, and I'm not done with it yet. I was thinking about another thing I'm going to do next year probably is I'm going to have a motor with a lever on it, and then it's going to sit underneath because it's a fabric seat, so it's going to sit underneath my bum, on my butt, as you guys say, and as you go over a bump, it's going to move up and down, and it's just going to be something I can just put underneath my seat. So I've not finished yet, but yeah, I desperately want a motion rig, but I can't afford one, and I haven't got the space for one, so I'm kind of making my own shit.
The beauty of that is like it doesn't, because it's VR. It doesn't matter what it looks like, right? When it's all said and done, it's what.
I don't care.
It's what it feels like.
If you saw it, yeah. It's,
I've seen pictures, but I think the fact that you can move it and portable and stuff and set it up, I think is awesome. And it goes to the point of what I was going to say is, like, if you've ever seen, and I'm sure you were right there before you got VR, anybody that's a racing enthusiast gamer, they've got the triple screens. They've got, they've deck it out. Like, they're prime for fucking VR. They're prime. They're ready. That once they get to that next step where it's like, oh my God, I'm in the car, I would imagine it's completely, changes everything, right?
I think we were, the problem we had before was obviously resolution and field of view and stuff was putting people off. When you've got people who've spent, these monitors are quite expensive because we've got these higher refresh rate monitors, and they've got monitor stands, and they've got 3 of them, and they've already got this rig set up. They're going to be resistant to then going out and ditching that and just buying one headset. But we're getting to the point now where, I've been using my Index, and screen door is virtually gone. The resolution still needs to be higher for things to be clear in the distance, but we're not far away from these being really suitable for any sim racer to jump in and really enjoy. So VR is the future of any sort of racing game, in my opinion. I don't think people who try it say, I can't go back, and it's just one by one people are going to convert, and you're not going to want, people aren't going to want to play in without a VR now.
I think I'm going to start.
Yeah,
go ahead, Wes.
I was just going to ask him, Alex, have you gone back and tried any of these games flat since you started in VR with all this stuff?
No, I've tried Vorpex. Because there's some games that I haven't got VR. There's WRC7, which I've played in Vorpex, which is kind of a midway between. You've got like a big screen in front of you, so you're not actually in the game. You can't look around. You can look around the screen because it fills most of your field of view, and it's got a little bit of depth, but it's not proper depth. But if that game had proper VR, I'd have spent a lot more time in it than if it is now. I could not play a game flat. I'd just be shit. The first time I used to play flat, and the first time I went into Dirt Rally, I couldn't work out why I was so much faster. It was unbelievable. I wasn't crashing. I could figure out where to brake, and I was placing the car better on the road because you've got all that depth. You've got the depth of 3D helps you place the car. When you go into VR in a racing game and you play flat, it looks like you're on a different track because everything looks completely different. You've got that feeling of actually feeling like you're sat in a car on a track. The track's laid out in front of you. It's not the same as when you're looking at a screen, and that's something that people who obviously play flat games who shit all over VR, they just haven't tried it. They don't know. They can't in their mind understand what it's like. But it's just there's no going back, especially with racing games. I can go back sometimes with like flat games occasionally, but racing games I did play Forza Horizon 4, but I was just like third person, kind of just arcadey. But anything serious sort of racing game, no chance.
Would you?
Yeah, I've always wanted to. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rude.
No, I was just going to ask you if you, because I've been thinking about getting a steering wheel for a while because I don't like racing games in VR because the controllers never translate right. I always feel like it's all jacked. Do you think that would be worth picking up? Like that it's, obviously you love racing games, but is it something
for
that
me? Yeah, it makes such a difference.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you.
Driving with a wheel is like the difference between driving flat and VR in some ways, because it's so much more. If you can't drive a car with a little gamepad and little thumbsticks in real life, but you're obviously especially in VR, when you're in VR and you've got a wheel and it's 1-to-1 with the wheel on the screen and your arms match up and everything matches up, and that level of immersion that you get, you just can't match it with any other. any other type of VR game. I don't think I've ever played a VR game that's given me the immersion that you get with racing games with a steering wheel.
Kind of like
So
an aim
I
controller, right?
recommend.
You know?
Yeah, I mean that's the same thing. I mean, I've got a gun stock and I can't go back to 200. I struggle going back to 200 weapons without the gun stock because it feels. I feel like I'm not. It feels like I'm completely like I'm trying to pick up fresh air. Whereas when I've got my gun stock and I've got the weights on there and I'm pulling it up to my shoulder and I've got that connection, it feels like I'm holding a gun. And then if you take that away, it's weird. It feels completely weird. But yeah, it's a slippery slope because you end up spending loads of money on stuff. And if you once you start down that road, it's I've spent way too much.
I'm going down that road. I'm going to get a steering wheel soon because I'm just watching that steering wheel and I really want to experience everything you're talking about because there's games that I just won't play because it doesn't feel right racing and I want to experience it. So I think you sold me, Alex. So
Yeah, I agree. I've always wanted to try one of these wheel and pedal setups. They're just so expensive. It's a lot of money to throw down on something you've never tried before. But
It's
yeah,
like VR.
definitely.
That's like VR though. I mean, obviously, it's like people who've not tried VR. It's a lot of money to pay to get VR. But once you've
Exactly.
tried VR, understand. And it's the same with the steering wheel. Once you try it, you'll never want to go back to like a more serious game with a gamepad because it don't feel right.
2 weeks, 2 weeks, and I'm getting it. You convinced me.
You've been spending some serious money lately on stuff.
Oh yeah.
All right, just one more question, unrelated. I didn't even put it in the notes. I'm just curious. Have you ever played Drive, Alex?
Oh, is that VR game?
I'm thinking it is, and only reason I asked is I just saw uh, right after I finished writing the show and doing the research for the notes,
Yeah.
I noticed that it just got a big update, and people were pretty happy about it. Happy.
Chris Gould in the Discord mentioned it to me, but I just can't see it being as good as the ones I've got because the ones I've got are already, like AAA quality. Like, I'm a big Assetto Corsa fan. I've got loads of mods and stuff installed on that, and Dirt Rally are my two go-tos. So I can't see that being anywhere near as good as what I've already got. That's the problem, unless it's more of an arcade game. But because I would love something like Forza Horizon 4 in VR, that would be freaking awesome. But that's not going to happen unless Microsoft jump into VR on consoles. So.
Yeah, I think it was on Twitter. I just had finished writing the format out for the show. I got off the computer, picked up my phone, went on Twitter, and the first thing I saw was Drive got a pretty big update. And I
Yeah.
was just like, damn, do I want to add that in? Nah, fuck it, I'm done with it. But I was curious because I know you're into these things. I thought maybe you'd tried it before.
No, I'm not.
All right, moving on. So what was it? 2 weeks ago we had E3, or maybe 3 weeks ago now we had E3, and famously now Upload VR had their VR games showcase, which was, in my opinion, quite a big success. It allowed a bunch of small independent developers who individually wouldn't be able to promote their games and show up to a big conference like this. It allowed them to band together and help each other out to promote their games. And it was a big success. A lot of news divulged. A lot of new games came out of that. And apparently these developers are starting to pick up on that, and they're trying to reproduce some of this success. And the reason I say so is because this year at Gamescom, which is another games conference taking place in Cologne, Germany. This year, I don't know if it's in Germany every year, but I know this year it's in Germany. I thought I wrote the dates down, but I didn't. It's in a couple of weeks here in Cologne, Germany.
I thought it
So
was. I'll look it up. But yeah, if you keep talking, I'll look it up. I
yeah,
thought it was
it's
later. I thought it was August time.
oh yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it was August. Yeah, but it's Comic Con was in a couple of weeks. You're right. This was in August. Anyway, we have six. The developers of six independent VR games are banding together to create the Gamescom VR Game Showcase. This is being sponsored, I'd like to add, by Perp Games, which is not a game developer, but Perp Games is a company that has done a lot for the PSVR community by taking PC ports and even some PlayStation exclusives and taking those digital games and releasing physical copies of them. That's what Perp Games is known for, and they've done a lot to help out independent developers. So this is just the latest example of Perp Games helping out independent VR developers. So as I was saying, 6 games coming together to put on this little showcase to promote each other's games. And we got a little list here of the games that are going to be showed off. I'm pretty sure that all of these games are going to have playable demos at Gamescom, which would indicate that maybe they're not that far off from release. At least they're in a playable state. We could say that for the very least, that they're far enough along to let people put hands on them. So that's interesting to know. Anyway, the games that are going to be included are Budget Cuts 2, Mission Insolvency, which we learned is coming. It's the Budget Cuts sequel coming from Neat Core, as well as a collaboration with Fast Travel Games. Speaking of Fast Travel Games, they're going to be there with their new game, The Curious Tale of the Stolen Pets. This is a, I don't know.
Curious game.
Yeah, it's curious is a good word for it. It looks like it all takes place on a little floating rock in front of your face. That said, story driven. So yeah, I don't know what to think about it. It doesn't look like the most, the biggest game in the world, but I do have.
It looks a bit childish, but I would like to try it out because I like that. Well, have you played that Tethered? You played that before?
I played the demo for a very small, short period of time, but it was pretty cool what I played. Not the best game I've ever
it looks kind of like that, where you've got an island and you're going to be able to look around it, maybe rotate around, and you obviously things are going to happen. It just depends on whether it's really dumbed down, more of a kid's thing, or whether it's actually got any sort of challenge. But I ain't got a problem with the cute aesthetic. It's more, if it's going to be really, really easy, like kids play type thing, then I don't know if I want to play it. But
I want the graphics to be really amazing. Like when you like we were always talking about the scale, like where you're looking at it and you're like, oh my God, that just looks so cool. That's what I think will make or break this game, aside from the story as well. But like, even if it's really easy, I wouldn't even care if it's not that, if it's somewhat easy, if it's like really, really cool looking. But
I think that this game being cool looking is the one given. I think that we can tell by looking at it and having the experience that we have in VR. I think this is going to be something akin to Alumet. I don't know if you've ever tried that free experience, Alumet. Or Ghost Giant, something like that, with working on a small scale with a lot of cute little details. I think that's absolutely going to be one of the draws of this game. That said, Andreas Julesen from Fast Travel Games is a developer that I do have quite a good deal of respect for, has called this his pet project on more than one occasion, and just based on that alone, I'll check it out. Like I said, I've got a lot of respect for that guy. So anyway, also making an appearance at the Gamescom VR Games Showcase, the greatest game of all time, The Walking Dead Onslaught by Servius. Okay, This is a game that I haven't been shy about saying I'm looking forward to a whole lot. I don't know how much more there is to say about it. This is we got a pretty good look at during the Upload VR showcase. I think that we can. I'm getting the feeling that this game is coming fairly soon now. The fact that
it's fall, I think they've said.
Yeah,
so
fall.
Yeah, fall.
Right, and then they're going to have a playable booth at this Gamescom I imagine they're probably pretty close to finished with it, and I can't wait.
They've said that they're going to showcase some of the like career campaign mode and some of the play because you can play apparently some of the actual characters from the film. So I think they're going to show some of that off. Gamescom is 21st of August, by the way, if you want the date.
Question is, can you be Carl though? Because if I can't be Carl, then I don't know, because he's so badass.
Everyone wants to be Carl.
Carl. I would like to be comic book version of Carl, but I don't want to be the AMC television version of Carl because, well, spoiler alert, there is no more Carl on TV.
Yeah.
That said, a related question, again, something that's not on the show here, just me thinking aloud. We know that that Robert Kirkman and Skybound Entertainment have commissioned Skydance Interactive to make the comic book version of a Walking Dead game called The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. And they've maintained all along that game is coming. This TV version of the Walking Dead VR game isn't going to affect that, is what they've said. Now, last week, in a shocking surprise move, we get the final issue of the Walking Dead comics. Just out of nowhere, they've said many times that they expect this thing to go to 300, 400 issues. Issue 193 was released this past Wednesday. It's a triple issue. It's the size of 3 normal issues. And yeah, that's it. Walking Dead, game over. They concluded the story. Carl is an old man, the whole 9. It's over. So me thinking aloud, I'm starting to worry now. Are we going to see the Skydance Interactive, The Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners? I don't know. Any thoughts on that, guys, or you want to just move on?
I don't know. That is kind of a good question. I don't know if that would affect it. So you're thinking that maybe that because they're ending the show that they just might scrap the entire game, or that's just like grips my heart out. Like I need to play that game. I was kind of looking forward to seeing a different take on it, right? Like the comic book take on it. Right. So hopefully that isn't the true. Hopefully they will still be doing this game because that is kind of depressing. So.
Yeah, I hope so. If I had to guess, I'd guess that it's still coming. But my understanding was that that game was going to be based in the comics universe, and now there is no more comic. So games and comic, when you have a comic adapted into a game or a TV show adapted into a game, not only are you using the TV show to sell the game, but the game is a part of the promotion for the TV show or the comic. And now that there's no comic to promote, I mean, maybe they will scrap the game. Hopefully not. They've been working on it for years. And in some ways, I was looking forward to that game more than the Servios game because I know that the Skydance game is a character-driven game. It's your decisions have consequences in a greater story, and I like story-driven games. And I love The Walking Dead, so I was very much looking forward to it. Hopefully it's still coming. I have not reached out to Skydance Interactive. Maybe I'll do that this week, make sure that they're still bringing the game. But just me thinking out loud here, I hope we still get both Walking Dead games this year. Another game making an appearance at Gamescom VR, The Wizards Dark Times. Now, I don't know a whole lot about this title. I haven't played The Wizards. I know it got, pretty good reviews on PSVR as well as PCVR. But I know that the trailer for this game is absolutely badass looking. And I'm curious about this game based on that alone. This looks like a dark game, an evil game. I think evil games are number one. So I want to see more of this game. Alex, what are your thoughts on The Wizards and The Wizards Dark Times?
Not really anything to say on it at the moment. I've not played The Wizards, so I can't really say whether it's any good or not. I've heard mixed reviews on it, so And this, it's just a fancy CGI sort of trailer, doesn't show any gameplay. So, well, I'll wait and see.
Yeah. What about you, Rich? Have you played The Wizards?
I have not actually, but this fancy CGI looks pretty good. I mean, if it could come close to what this trailer looks like you said, it looks good. I'd be interested in checking it out for sure. I have not tried the original though.
Yeah. So none of us have played it. So no use in sitting here and going on about it. Two more games coming. First, I'll just mention quickly. There's a game called Akron, which I found odd. I always thought this game was called Acorn.
Because I thought it was a spelling mistake.
No, actually, this is what the game is called. It's called Akron or Akron. And the purpose of the game is to it's a cross-platform like co-op game. Well, not really even co-op. It's like a versus. You're the VR player. You're the tree. You're trying to protect your acorns, and you have multiple mobile players playing on their phones trying to steal the acorns. But you can see right there, the title screen of it is actually called Akron or Acorn or Akron. So this comes from Resolution Games, the people who made the Angry Birds VR Isle of Pigs game, which was a very good, a very fun mobile. I mean, technically it's a mobile game because it's on Quest, but it seemed like a mobile game in VR when I played it on the Rift. So kudos to these developers for knowing what they're good at and making another game that takes advantage of the mobile platform, gets other players involved, and while it may not be the biggest game, it does look like it's probably quite fun to play with your friends. And lastly is a game that we had never heard of before. This is the first we've heard of it, a game called An Adventure in Wonderland. So we don't know a whole lot about this game. Judging from the thumbnail that they gave us, it's going to take place in Wonderland, like from Alice in Wonderland, and it's probably going to be a third-person adventure game that takes place in a surreal environment. That's really all I know about it. I know it's developed by Cortopia Studios. Let's see. I knew Cortopia Studios. Didn't they do, what was it, Wands or something like that? Alex, do you know?
I've not heard of them.
They did, actually. I was looking into them earlier today. They did Wands. That was actually all I could find on their website was Wands. So I think this might be their second game that they're going at. Because they had all sorts of videos about Wands, but nothing else.
Yeah, Wands was for those of you who don't know, that it was something that was released in the launch window with the HTC Vive, if I'm not mistaken. Or actually, no, this was one. I'm thinking of a different game, the game we're going to talk about next. Wands was a game that predates Six-Doll VR. This was a Gear VR game that was our first taste of the Harry Potter world that we all longed for in VR. It was just a really basic wizardry game, but from what I understand, people did like it. So yeah, I like, as you all know, I like surreal environments, weirdness in games, and I think that any game based in Wonderland is going to have a lot of that. So I'm curious about it just based on that. Do you guys have any thoughts on this announcement of this new game, An Adventure in Wonderland?
Just that I hope it is third person, because I like third person games in VR, and we haven't got enough of them, in my opinion. So I welcome it if we have got another one coming. I'd like to know more about it.
Yeah. And just having a theme that's kind of something we know in Wonderland, and like you said, the possibilities of what they could do, and I think they could really make a very a cool game if they do it right. I'm kind of excited to see a little bit more about it.
Yeah. I think that we all have our certain, TV shows, movies, stories that we fantasized about. Man, if they could just bring this into VR. And I think Wonderland is a perfect example of one of those things that would be amazing in VR if done correctly. So yeah, hopefully it is a third-person game. I agree, Alex. That was just me basing it off of what this thumbnail looks like.
So much info, right?
I mean,
So we could, we could be completely wrong then. So yeah,
right. Well, we'll know soon enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you say? It was August 18th. Is that what you said?
21st of August.
Wow.
You've got to do your day first, then month, then year.
Oh yeah.
Hey, you backwards, you weird British people, right?
Yeah, ass backwards.
Day, month, year makes sense.
Well, it just depends. Depends on who you ask, buddy.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so that's Gamescom VR Game Showcase. I'm very encouraged to see that these independent developers are coming together to help one another out. I think it's yet another sign of great things to come for VR this year and the years to come. All right, moving forward, as I just mentioned a moment ago, the Wizardry game that was released in the launch window with the HTC Vive, and that game was Waltz of the Wizard. This was a free experience that was designed to showcase the advantages of 6.VR, so hand presence in VR. It allows you to manipulate your environment, interact with magical objects, and cast spells. It was a free experience that got pretty good reviews. So now the news comes out this week that this is getting a fairly significant update. They're adding new spells, even more interactive objects into this. But the biggest change to this game is the price. What was once a free experience is now being sold as a $10 game. They are adding index controller support. So whereas the first one was kind of a HTC Vive launch title, this is going to be kind of a index launch title. But they're adding the index support and slapping a $10 price tag on it. Let me start with this. Have either of you tried the Waltz of the Wizard?
No.
Yeah, I've tried it, yeah. It was one of my first ones, because I tried a load of free stuff, and I went into this, and this does, if you say Harry Potter feel, this definitely has a Harry Potter feel to it, like with the, well, maybe not because you've not got wands, but you got a cauldron. There's quite a few different spells. I didn't actually do them all, so I'd be worth going back in there, but you can make yourself a giant or have levitation powers and throw fireballs, and there's actually quite a lot to it. It's really good for free, especially for putting new people into VR. But yeah, I'm not sure with this. It depends how much they've added to it, I suppose, because it is kind of more of a newbie sort of showcase for VR. And if you've got the free version still, you may as well just use that. But I know it's got, I think you've written down, it's got a launch discount, so it's going to be about $6, which is probably about £4. So I might just pick it up just to try it out. But I'm not 100%. Yeah, it's good. It's not bad. It's just, I don't know if me going back to it now, having played what I've played, whether I'd find it as fun. But for free, I'd definitely check the free version out if you haven't done.
Yeah, we've got, like, since this has come out, we've got The Unspoken, we've got The Wizards, like we mentioned earlier. There are other games in this genre now. So really it's going to depend on how much extra content they add into it, whether or not it's worth the $6, let alone the $10. I'll be interested to catch some reviews on this. Hopefully there'll be some good ones before the price goes up to $10.
I might just pick it up for the team anyway, and then we can talk about it next week. So.
All right. It releases what, in a couple of days?
It's Wednesday, I think.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can contact the developer. Maybe we can get access to it so that we can do a review on it.
Yeah, maybe we can see.
Yeah, it'd be worth a try. All right. Any other thoughts on the Waltz of the Wizard?
I think it's just watching this and what you said, Alex. You know, obviously it came out 2016. I got my Rift 2018. Never even tried this. I don't. There's no reason not to charge $10 at this point, right? Everybody's already tried the original. They're either going to get the new people that are going to get it, they're going to get the money. The people that have already tried it, they're not going to try it already, or maybe they'll be interested. I just think it's a win-win, no-brainer to charge $10. It's been out for 3 years for free, and now they're going to finally put out a one that they can make a little money, and especially with all the people coming into VR.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have said, because I saw it in the Vive subreddit, and a lot of people who have said, that more to support the developer, because obviously he puts out for free for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good thing, it's not a horrible thing. It's actually quite a lot to it. And also, obviously, having the index finger tracking and everything, I think a lot of people might buy it for that alone. We haven't got that many games that support the full finger tracking situation. I haven't played any yet because I don't want to keep going back to old games just to see my fingers wiggle about. But I could potentially get this and try it, So I think I'll probably pick it up, or you would, like we say, we might get a key if we're lucky. But if it's only like £4, then it's based on what I've played before, and if all three of us are going to get to try it out, I think it's probably worth spending £4 on it to play it.
Cool.
Well, you know what I always say though, right?
Free is better.
Fuck the devs.
Oh yeah. Oh.
No, I'm just kidding. I absolutely. We may just want to go ahead and just get it anyway, because like you said, this guy supported this awesome or at least very good wizard game. We all want to be Harry Potter in VR, and here this guy's put some work into letting us do that for free all this time. So if there's any kind of substantial upgrades to it, it's probably worth the meager $6 that he's asking.
Especially if you like it. Like, we don't think about the fact that, like, if we support the devs of the games we like, they can make another game that we like, and maybe it'll be even better. Sometimes I guess we get so wrapped up in what's good for me and what I like, and I want it cheap. And I don't know. I just don't mind paying for something that's worth paying for. So.
Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, but I'm worried about how bad it's going to be because it's only $10.
Yeah. Let's. Yeah.
JK.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. Looks like we have a couple of items left here. First of all, Orbus VR. This is an online VR MMO game that has a very passionate, loyal community. The people that play this game are kind of like the people that play Firewall. This is mostly all that they play, and they play it all the time, and they love it. So I've never tried this game, but now it's getting a demo, and it's not only getting a demo, it's getting a sizable free demo that allows the user to play up to level 10 in all 8 character classes. Now, from what I understand, the level cap in this thing's 20. So they're basically giving you half of the game for free. And this is hours and hours of gameplay. Now, so far, this demo is only going to be available on Steam VR, but this is a cross-platform game. So if you do the demo in Steam and then decide later you want to pick up the Oculus Store version, because I think it's crossplay on the Quest and the Rift. If you decide to buy it in Oculus, your characters, your stats, all the stuff that you've accomplished in the game will follow you to the Oculus Store. So that said, I've never tried Orbus VR. Have either of you ever played Orbus?
I tried it. No. I tried it on one of I think it was when they were doing those contests where you like had to try a certain game on a weekend or something, and I believe Orbus was one of them. If not, it was a free weekend, and I wasn't that impressed. I haven't tried Orbus Reborn. I played World of Warcraft for almost a decade, and so I love MMOs. The idea of going into an MMO and healing, because I'm a healer, just makes me think, oh my god, it would be crazy. But I don't know that this is anything like what I would expect from an MMO, so it's cool. And I'm guarantee the people that play it, that, maybe there's more to it. I feel like for people that are really passionately into, say, World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy, probably might not think it was enough, but that's without me really trying it too much. But like I said, the demo, or what the time I spent, I didn't like it at all. I maybe was in there 30 minutes, enough to get qualified for the competition and get the fuck out of there. So, but
All right. Alex, this is a popular game. This is a sizable demo, hours of free content. Is it enough to beckon you into giving it a shot there?
No,
No?
I'm not. I'm not a big MMO fan at all, really. So I'm just, I just have no interest in this. And I've just got so many other games to play. You know, if I didn't have anything else to play, maybe. But it's just I've got so much other stuff to play anyway. I'm just, yeah, I've got no interest in it. Are you going to jump in it?
I considered it, but I'm like you. I'm not the biggest MMO guy, and right, there's always so much to play. I never have any lack of stuff to play. It's fairly jam packed. You know, my backlog is years long, so I probably won't. But it's nice to know for people that are new to VR and people that are into this sort of thing. I think it's really cool that they get this kind of access to what is, again, a very popular game.
I'm kind of curious if anybody's watching that's played this, what the differences are between regular Orbus and Reborn. I know they covered it, or we even covered it a little bit, but you know, because I played the original, and if the Reborn was any different, I might check it out. I mean, it's a free demo, but
It was a big overhaul. I think graphically, just everything. I think they went and just redid everything.
Huh.
Improved everything. So it's definitely worth it. If you like MMOs, then I think you should check it out, and you can tell us all whether it's any good or not.
yeah, I'll check it out.
Well,
Go ahead.
I can tell you, knowing how these people are, the people that play Orbus, I'm going to go ahead and ask them. You know, Rooch just said it. He played 30 minutes of the original Orbus. If you're into this game, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Let him know why that's not enough to make a proper judgment on Orbus VR Reborn. Now, I say that asking people to leave a comment, but knowing these people from the Orbus community, they're already doing it. Before I even said it, they're already, if someone is watching this and plays this game, they're already halfway through their comment by the time I said that. But anyway. Moving on to our final item, right? Our final item, yes, our final item of the week, SideQuest. SideQuest has just got its second huge update, and apparently it's a pretty big one. What SideQuest is, for those of you that don't know, it's an app that runs on Windows, but what it does is it helps you sideload applications onto your Oculus Quest. So if you want to sideload programs that you can't buy and obtain through the Oculus Store onto your Quest, there's a bit of a runaround you've got to go through to be able to do that. Well, SideQuest makes that easy. Pretty much makes it a drag and drop deal. And as easy as the original version of SideQuest was, apparently this version is that much easier. So, that said, not only is SideQuest a tool to help you load third-party content onto your Oculus Quest, but it also hosts content for your Oculus Quest. For example, you can get the beta version of Pavlov on the SideQuest page. You can get the version of Virtual Desktop with PC streaming enabled. You know, it was a news item a couple of weeks back. We reported that Oculus was making the developer of Virtual Desktop remove the PC streaming feature from it because they were getting complaints. But that version is still supported by the developer. You just can't get it through the Oculus Store, but you can get it through SideQuest. And finally, I want to mention that with the update, SideQuest now hosts a Quest version of Crisis VRigade, which is a first-person, arcade-style first-person shooter that put you in the shoes of a SWAT team member at a bank robbery. So you're taking on the bad guys at a bank robbery, a very time crisis inspired game. You know, a lot of people have said before that they would like to have Time Crisis in VR. Well, this is very heavily inspired by Time Crisis. It's a game that has already been released on Steam and PSVR. It's got good reviews. It's a short game, kind of a tech demo, but it's very fun according to the people that have played it. It's got good reviews, and it's only $9 on either Steam or PSVR. It supports the hand controller on PSVR, and most people that I know that have played this have said that they liked it. Well, you can have it for free, and all you got to do is install SideQuest and just install it on your Oculus Quest, and you get a free, very good, albeit short game. Roots, have you ever tried Crisis VRigade?
No, I didn't even know it existed. I think it looks pretty cool. It looks like Just in Time Incorporated, kind of graphic wise, and I don't know. It's very intriguing. I think I'm gonna check it out. So.
Yeah, and even though you don't have a Quest, I can tell you that I did notice last night that it is available in our shared Steam library. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah, get on there and check it out. What about you, Alex? Have you tried Crisis VRigade?
No, it's supposed to be really hard. Apparently, it's like ridiculous. Like the levels, I think there's like 2 levels, and they last 20 minutes each, maybe. But they're so hard that you could spend hours, you know, trying to finish them. But yeah, it's never really appealed to me for some reason. But if I've got access to it, I might check it out. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a game that I've been aware of for a while now, and I know that people, especially the PSVR community, have praised it. Especially, you know, because there's such a shortage of aim controller games. It's always good to get even a short experience that supports the aim controller. But that said, the pile of content keeps growing that's available for side loading. So I'm fairly certain that I'm pretty much to the point now where I'm going to have to get into side loading. And when I do, I'm sure I'll install Crisis VRigade and give it a shot. I'm waiting on To the Top. I'm hoping that To the Top makes an appearance on SideQuest. I would jump in immediately if that were to happen. But that said, if there are any of you out there that are watching this and you have an Oculus Quest and you don't know how to sideload and you're interested but you don't know how to do it, let me know in the comments down below. Like I said, I'm very close to just jumping in and doing this myself. And if you would like, I can make a tutorial as I go and upload it to the channel here. So if any of you are interested in it, let me know in the comments down below, and perhaps I'll help you guys out by shooting a new video.
Okay.
Lastly, the last little bit of news is related to this. And that is the developers of Crisis VRigade have just this past week announced that they are in full development mode for the Crisis VRigade 2, which apparently is the same concept, the same Time Crisis-inspired gameplay, but expanded on every level. Much more detailed graphics, a much longer game with much more intensive gameplay. Basically, where Crisis VRigade 1 was a short tech demo, Crisis VRigade 2 is going to be a full game and with the much higher production values. So those of you that have played this game and are a fan of it, just be aware that they're working on the next one, and it's going to be a much more highly polished experience. Anything else on SideQuest or Crisis VRigade 1 or 2?
Nope.
That's it.
All right, so that concludes the weekly news roundup. A lot more there than I thought there was going to be at the beginning of the week. But again, a lot less than some of our earlier episodes that went on forever. That said, that brings us to our weekly game review segment. And for those of you new to the show, at the end of every Sunday show, we pass it around. We do game reviews every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on this channel, but we start the conversation on Sunday. And what we do is we pass it around. We each pick a game, and we just talk about it for a minute and describe why we picked this game and what we like about it. So I'll start myself. My game is going to be on Tuesday, unless you guys object. I guess I kind of just decided that.
Sounds good to me.
I think we're.
No, I'm happy with that. Yeah.
I think we're going to go with my game on Tuesday. And my game this week is Moss. And this is a game that we've talked about in great detail on this channel before. Those of you that have had VR more than a day, you all know about Moss. You know that this is one of the most beautiful, most highly polished, story-driven VR games that there is. And I've wanted to review this game pretty much since we changed our format and started doing reviews. I wanted to review this game, but we have decided to wait because we knew that the DLC was coming. The Twilight Garden DLC came to PC VR just this past week. We've all had a chance to play it now, and that's why I've decided to cover Moss this week. I just finished that DLC, and man, it was awesome. You guys have anything you want to say about the DLC or Moss in general?
What I was thinking is, why don't we cover the DLC now, and then we could talk about over the overall game in the review. Because some people probably just want to hear about the DLC, maybe who've already played the game.
Okay, sure. Well, why don't you go ahead and start it? I know you made it all the way through it, right?
I got through all the DLC. Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'll say is that you have to kind of play the game to get through it, which is either a good thing or a bad thing, depending on whether you've played the game or not. I think the reason they did it is because they wanted it to feel like a complete package rather than just being a tacked on thing. So they've kind of built it into the game so that new players who are buying the game, because one of the main criticisms of this game was obviously that it wasn't quite long enough. So they've tried to address that. And this is actually there's quite a bit to it. It probably took there's three sections within the game. It took about 20 minutes each. There's about a good hour extra content, which, you know, it's they've done a good job. It doesn't feel rushed. It feels well developed. The way that you find these levels, you have to look as you're playing through the game. You have to look for these little glowing green orbs, and if you walk up to them and then press the interact button, then Quill will open like a portal, and you go through that. And then you end up in the Twilight Garden, and a toad talks to you, and then you've got 3 different areas, so you have to unlock them as you go through the game. If you don't want to go through the entire game, the best thing to do would be to look up online where the locations are, and then you could go to that chapter. You'd still probably have to play a little bit of the game, but you won't have to play it from the very beginning and go through, because I think it takes a good hour or so before you find the first portal, so you could probably skip a good 45 minutes or so of the game. Just get into the first portal. Roos, I'll let you just. What did you think first of all to the actual Twilight Garden?
I thought it was really cool. I really wasn't a fan of the fact that of where it's located. I get it, but see, I'm one of those people that didn't really know where it was at, and I started playing. Then I found the first portal, finished that area, and then realized, and I had started a new game, and then I realized, well, fuck, I could do the chapters, but I don't want to go back and redo or further in, I didn't want to go back and redo that first section, or maybe it was even the first 2 sections. So I ended up playing the whole damn game again, which was cool. But it was not my intention. It was a good 4 hours of my time that just got sucked up. But I really enjoyed it. I think they added a couple of different, you could see that they added different mechanics, or not necessarily mechanics, but just like the islands, how they're kind of floating when you jump on them. And it's not like they just added a little bit of content. It's actually improved content. So I thought it was done really well. So
yeah, I got to agree here. First of all, let me ask you guys, do you have to? So you get into this DLC level, right? and there's 3 trials that you have to complete. Now, do you have to find all 3 entrances from the main map to play each trial, or can you go into one entrance and play through the whole thing?
It pulls you out.
You have to fill up. Yeah, you have to do all 3. If you go into one, then you basically have to go back out through the portal back into the main game, and then you've got to find another portal to go back in for them to unlock another section. So you'd have to do all 3 separate sections, and I think you have to do them in order as well, because you get one of the abilities in the first area where you can see floating platforms that are invisible, and the later sections you need to use that ability. So I don't think you could just go to like the second one and then do it. I think you'd have to do the first one, the second one, and the third one in order to be able to finish them.
I think the story would limit you too, because that frog is like talking shit to you the first couple times, and so it's kind of like I think you have to do it in the order that it's designed. So I don't even know. I'd be curious, and maybe it'd be something to check out if you would even see the portal in the second one. If you somehow passed it, would it still be there?
That's a good point. I don't know if that would happen, but yeah, we will not spoil too much because it's about an hour long, and it is actually the story itself. I actually played through to the end, and I liked the way it was tied into the actual main game. It didn't feel, like I said, it didn't feel tacked on. If you played this game from scratch, you wouldn't feel disconnected. It'd feel like it was meant to be there from the start. I like the feel of the areas as well, like the actual aesthetic changes compared to the main game. It has a different color palette, and it's like the floating platforms when you jump on them, they kind of rock and move around. And I like the fact that they've got the different abilities that you gain. You get like a sword that you can power up, and then you have to lean in and charge it with your trigger. And I really like that mechanic, because later on you need that in some of the combat, so you're constantly having to. It gets you more involved in the combat rather than you just sitting and just fighting with Quill. You have to keep leaning in and charging your little power up and then pulling Quill up. And I like the way that they involve, and it makes me feel like these developers are going to do a really good job with the second game, because they're obviously building more and more interactivity with you into the experience, rather than it just you being like a third-person game. You are definitely part of the game. So
yeah, I wholeheartedly concur with everything you said. That was one of the more impressive things to me when I played it, was the fact that it didn't seem like something that was added in. It seemed like it was a part of the game that was there all along. And as far as the quality of it, it absolutely holds up to the standard that the main game sets. The area, the overworld part of the new area, is one of the more beautiful areas in the game, if not the most beautiful. It was really, really good looking, and introduced some new color palettes into it that made it really pretty, honestly. And the toad, crazy looking, right? Look real, like it was right in front of your face there. The puzzles throughout the trials were in line with the puzzles throughout the rest of the game. It was the same type of stuff, the same amount of difficulty, not too easy, not too hard, and the new weapons and abilities I like even better than the original weapons that you had.
Oh yeah, they've definitely expanded on. That's what makes me feel good about what they're going to do with the next game, because they've expanded on. Like I said, they've not just added a couple of extra levels. They've expanded the gameplay as well and added extra elements like these invisible platforms, like the charge up, power up you've got. And there's a really cool end boss, actually, because the end boss in the main game was a little bit disappointing. It was cool, but it was kind of easy. Whereas the end boss in this little DLC is actually pretty tough. It took me a few tries to get through it, and it's really cool the way that they keep changing it up. It felt really well developed, and I liked the story, the way that they wrapped that, because I was always wondering how they're going to wrap this story up, but not have it affect the main story. And they did a really good job with that, actually, with the way that they wrote the story and how it integrates with the main story without changing anything, because you can't change anything in the main story, because it is a separate thing. So
Yeah, very well done. And just so you know, the reason why I asked about having to do these all three entrances, asked the reason why I asked, do you need to find those? Because when I went into the first one, I didn't see the platforms to get across, because you're kind of away from where the toad is. So I didn't see them, so I thought, well, maybe you have to find all three portals first before you can get over there. So I went into the second door, same thing. I didn't see
right.
I didn't see the platform. And then I went into the third one and it was the same thing and I still couldn't get over there. And I was like, man, what am I missing here? And then I saw the platforms and I saw how to get over there. So the way I did it is I found all three portals. I went into the third portal, found my way across, and then I did all three trials right in order.
Oh man, that would have been awesome. I wish I could have done that.
Yeah, it was really cool. So I kind of played through the whole level at once, and it was awesome. It was really good.
So how long did it take you then to do all of it?
I was thinking it took around an hour for me.
So let me ask you this: do you think you would prefer it to be that way, where you're going in once and I don't know, man? I just don't want to go through the level and find three different portals. For somebody that's completed the game already, it was kind of a pain in the ass. I could see if I had not done the game at all, it's kind of cool, but I don't know.
Right. Well, as a developer though, you're kind of making things for the people who haven't bought your game yet, right?
You're making it for roots.
I think it would have been good if they gave you an option, maybe just to do the DLC. So if you've already played it, you can just go in.
It should have just been in the chapter select, the way it unlocks everything else when you beat the game.
Yeah, it would have been. I would have probably just done that. I mean, to be fair, one of the benefits we have is we've both got these new headsets, so we went into it. It gave me a reason to play it again. If I would have gone back in it with my original Rift, I don't think I probably would have felt like it was a chore having to do it. But because I had that splendor and wonder again of how good everything looks in the index, it helped. But it's a good game, but I don't know. For me personally, I don't think it's got that much replayability. It's not a game I'm going to want to keep going back in and over again. So
it's a good game to show off VR, especially that scene with the beautiful color palette, and you're outside in this giant woods, and you have the giant toad, and then there's leaves falling, and it's like kind of like sunset.
No, it's beautiful. It's like you say, it's the best part. It's one of the best looking parts of the game. So they clearly, you can see that they're developing. The developers are developing themselves in the skills, and it's only going to get better with time, I think. So, well, I think we've said enough, and probably should move on. Obviously, do it because we're going to talk about the game and review. But if you've got Moss, definitely check it out. Go back in, maybe do the chapter select, and try and find an easier way to do it. And if you haven't got Moss, then it's worth picking up. It's on sale actually at the moment still. And make sure to check for the little portals. You'll have to look for these little. It takes about an hour or so before the first one, but you'll see the little floating green orbs. You have to walk up to them and then press your select button. I think it's your sword button, and then it opens the portal. So it's definitely worth doing them. Even if you've not played the full game before. So,
right. So if you have this game and you want to try this new DLC out, and you'd like to know which chapters contain the portals, just hit me up or any of us, and we can tell you which chapters they're in. If you have not played this game, tune in on Tuesday to our full review of it, and we'll tell you a lot more about it and explain to you why you must own this game. Okay. All right, moving on. I think we're going to do Roots on Wednesday. We're going to let Roots pick the game for Wednesday. And what game are you selecting, Roots?
Okay, so I selected a game called Tin Hearts. which is pretty much like a Lemmings game in VR. And the reason I chose this game is I heard a lot of people talking about it. I think we were discussing different games on sale or whatever. And I feel like this is one of those hidden gems, puzzle games that falls beneath the or under the radar. It's just really cool and very it's like we've been talking the last couple weeks about how, VR showcases scale, whether it be really big or really small. And I just think the detail on this, I almost describe it as a magical game in some respects. It's not the most intensive game, but it just I think it's different. It's very different than every game that I've played, so that's like this. It's pretty cool. So I don't know if either of you have very much thoughts on it, or
I'll save it for the review. But yeah, I'll save it for the review because I've got good and bad things to say about it. So
yeah, same here. I'll add my 2 cents in on it during the review, and the review will come on Wednesday.
Cool.
All right, so that leaves Thursday, and that leaves Alex. So, Alex, what game are you choosing this week?
I've picked a very good puzzle game called Red Matter, which was an Oculus exclusive and then came out on Steam and PSVR, so it's available on all major platforms. Again, we're running quite long, so I'm not going to go too in depth because we're going to talk about it in review anyway. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's In fact, we'll just save it for the review because, like I said, I don't want to really. It's difficult for me to talk about it without going on a ramble. So, if you want to hear someone else talk about it more in depth, then check it out on Thursday, and we'll go into detail.
I have a question for you. Just one quick question because I know we're running long. Why did you pick Red Matter? Is there a reason why you chose it, or?
Just a really good game. Last week we kind of had a mixed bag. Last week we kind of shit on a few games, and none of us were really hyped on anything we reviewed. So I thought it's about time we got back to gushing on games and picked something good.
Cool.
So.
Makes sense to me. All right, so going forward, the schedule for this week, obviously today, the weekly show, the news roundup, the Sunday show. Tomorrow, as always, the Monday show, our topical VR game show where we pick a topic and talk about it. We each pick a couple of games normally and have a discussion. Alex, what is our topic this week?
The topic is we're going to go 6 VR experiences, but we're doing paid experiences. So these are games that you're going to have to pay money for that we think are worth the price.
Right. So a couple of weeks ago, we did an episode about 6 great free experiences that are worth your time. Well, we're doing a rerun of that. Only this time the experiences are not free; they are paid experiences. So as good as the free stuff was, the paid stuff is just as good or better. So you're going to want to be sure to tune in for that. All right. So following the Monday topical discussion, Tuesday we will do a review of Moss. Wednesday we will review 10 Hearts. And Thursday we will talk about Red Matter. And thus will conclude another week full of great content from Virtual Strangers. That said, is there anything else you guys would like to say?
No, that's it.
That's pretty much it.
All right. So that's going to wrap up the Sunday show this week. If you made it this far, I want to thank you for watching. And if you like what you see here, click the like button and don't forget to subscribe and the notification bell. So for Alex and Roots, I'm Wes. Again, thanks for watching, and I will see you tomorrow, friends.
Sayonara.
Bye-bye.
Bye.